Councillor Drawn, are you there?
Yes, I am, Mayor Brown.
Okay.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay. Just a clarification before we start. Michael, could you just address this issue? It's quite clear for the presentation, for the presenter of any of the proposals or projects are allowed 10 minutes to make their presentation. And anyone that wishes to follow, they're allowed 5 minutes. So can you just verify that? Because I believe that's in our procedural bylaw.
I believe that's the case. I can quickly check it as well, if that would help.
Who's that?
Sorry, this is Michael.
Okay.
I can quickly check it, but it is my understanding that it's 10 and 5, yes.
10 and... Yeah, and again, I just want to make it clear that we have a very extensive agenda, and it's about keeping within the parameters that are outlined and that we've used as precedent. So if we break that precedent, then we are actually not abiding or adhering to our procedural bylaw. Are you both checking it? Mike and Mike?
I am. I'm a little behind, though. I didn't have the document up, so I'm just looking through it there now. If someone gets the answer, if they could let me know. Really appreciate it.
You're correct, Your Worship. For the applicant, they're allotted a maximum of 10 minutes, while participants can speak only once and for no more than 5 minutes on each item.
And again, I say that, and I know Samantha Murphy's out there in the gallery, that I've been at many public meetings, and are we on a 3-hour block here? Yeah, so anything over 3 hours, we have to vote as a council to extend the meeting. And after 3 hours in a public meeting on planning issues, it wears on you. So, Councillor Duran is participating online or by phone, via phone. Who's the other Mike that's talking there?
Michael Fraser, planner 2.
Oh, Michael Fraser. Okay, we got another Michael. Okay, Michael Russ. And Councillor Tweel, did you get anything, Jason, from Councillor Tweel?
I don't think so.
I know that Councillor McAleer is at a funeral or at a wake in Hunter River. And I believe Councillor Ramsey is home with family, so he's not able to call in. Well, if Councillor Tweel comes in, then he comes in. But we do have quorum. So we start off by acknowledging and appreciating the land on which we gather is the traditional unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq First Nation. And today's public meeting is to hear comments, questions, or concerns on the following applications. There are 4 unaddressed parcels, St. Peter's Road. The staff member presenting that will be Michael Fraser via Teams. So is Michael coming in by video or is he just coming in by phone? Michael?
It'll just be audio, but I'm on my computer here, so I'll have the presentation.
And we do have the presenter, owner, Jamie Lewis and Scott Lewis, correct? 94 Watts Avenue. Oh, I should have given the unaddressed parcel number of St. Peter's Road, PID number 140087. That has to be read into the public record. 94 Watts Avenue is PID number 757484. And it's Sonia Kamel, planner 2. She's also coming in via Teams. Audio or visual, Sonia?
I'm on my computer, but it will be audio.
Okay.
Yes, and I'll be presenting.
Presenter
Yeah.
owner is Patty Larkin. Is Patty here? Okay, Patty's down there. 149, 151 Great George Street. Parcel numbers 342386 and 342402. We have our manager of development, David Gundrum, planning and development manager. Presenter owner, HIGLP Management, Inc. Do we have a name to that? Is there someone here, Gordy, or is it? And the name is? April Roberts? Okay. Robertson, April Robertson. 20 Ralden Avenue, bid number 396937. Again, our esteemed Manager of Planning and Development, David Gundrum, will be staff, and presenter owner, Philip Jamieson, Bob Coughlin, and Heating Services. Is Philip here? Philip Jamieson, I didn't see him. Bob Coughlin, I didn't see him either. Okay, I'll have to leave that up to staff. David, I think that'll be under you. So while we're back in person meetings at this time, residents still have the option, again, like tonight, it's hybrid meetings, so you can participate via Microsoft Teams or by audio by calling in. The meeting is also live streamed in YouTube, easy to access, City of Charlottetown, and all these meetings are archived. So if you wanted to go back and look at something, just go to the YouTube channel, type in City of Charlottetown, and you will be able to access the meeting. And there's also the video link, www.charlottetown.ca/video. As I said, Councillors McCabe, Councillor Beck, Councillor McKinnon, Deputy Mayor Yankoff, Councillor Bernard, Councillor Matard, and via phone, Councillor Duran. Any planning board members here? Bob Kenny? No? Jackie Skaman? I don't think there are. So resident members of the public present, Andrea Battison will be making a presentation, again, not as a proponent of one of these properties, but as someone that is going to speak to it. Again, within the guidelines, Andrea, 5 minutes. And we do have us joining us in teams. Martin Forbes, you there, Martin?
Hello, yes, I am.
So, Martin, I think you're the same Forbes. Your father was a professor of economics at UPEI.
Oh, yes, that's correct. Yeah.
My sincere sympathies on the loss of your father.
Oh, okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, I'm going to call on Deputy Mayor Alana Yankoff, who is the Chair of Planning, Development, and Heritage. Deputy.
Thank you, Your Worship, and good evening, everyone, and welcome here on this nice, warm, summer, muggy evening. Just to outline the order of the events for each presentation, we'll start with a brief presentation by staff and then the applicant. And again, as His Worship mentioned, the applicant has 10 minutes to present. After the presentation, those folks that are here from the general public can come up, and everyone is permitted to speak on each application once for no more than 5 minutes. And after the folks here in person, we will open it up to those that are online to watch. And then from there, councillors are here to seek any clarity from the applicant, but we're not here to make any decisions or offer any opinions on the applications for this evening, as to ensure that we don't disrupt or affect the process of the public consultation period. So just a reminder, anyone that isn't here or anyone that's here that wants to offer further information, you have until tomorrow at noon to submit to the Planning Department, and that's Thursday, July the 11th. And other than that, we all know, we ask for respect and decorum. If somebody is speaking, to allow them the respect that they should have while they're speaking. And other than that, really great to have you all here and enjoy the 4 presentations, and thank you.
So, order of business, call to order. Now, I do have to ask, any declarations of conflict? Seeing none. Okay, the agenda is very simple. We have 4 properties. I need someone to approve the agenda. Moved by Councillor McKinnon, seconded by Councillor Beck. All those in favor? Councillor Duran, yea or nay?
In favor, thank you.
Okay, so we're going to call on Michael Fraser by audio for the first presentation. Michael.
Hello. I think Jason and I are just trying to figure out how to get it presented off of our computers. Just give me 1 second here to
Okay.
try.
It should be maybe top right, Michael. It might say share screen.
Yeah, it's just taking a sec here. Share screen.
Good evening, Councillor Twill. Councillor Twill is joining the meeting.
I shared an old one there. Sorry about that.
Are you able to share it?
No, just give me 1 sec there. I might just have to leave and come back. Just give me 1 quick second here.
Good to go, Michael? Quietly, we wait.
Jason, it's not giving me the option of presenting it on my screen. Could you present it on yours and I just ask you to go next slide?
Yep,
Good.
just hang tight for 1 sec then.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Okay, there we are.
Can you see what I'm putting up here? You're going to have to get on YouTube or something there to have a look at that, but it's up now.
It's not live, but it's showing that it's coming up. Yeah.
Yeah.
The live stream's a couple of seconds behind.
Yeah, you're a few seconds behind there, Michael.
Perfect. Okay, so I am. First of all, I just want to say sorry for not being there in person. I'm not feeling well today, so I just am presenting from Summerside there. Hello, everyone. Thanks, Your Worship. Thanks, Deputy Mayor and Council, and thanks for everyone who's attending here today. I'm here to present a request to rezone properties near St. Peter's Road and Route 25. Which can also be identified as PID 140087. This property is a large property that is located at the edge of the city's boundary and recently was not in the city's boundary. It was annexed into the city's boundary in 2022. The applicant has applied to rezone PID 140087 to ER MUVC, which is the East Royalty Mixed Use Village Center zone. And an official plan amendment would also be required to facilitate this, to change the land designation to Village Center Commercial and extend the existing boundary of the East Royalty Master Plan. Next slide. I'm going to guess the next slide's up there. So the subject property is approximately 69 acres and has 2 frontages, one on St. Peter's Road and one on Route 25. The property is bounded on the north and east by lands that are outside the city of Charlottetown's municipal boundary, to the south by St. Peter's Road, and to the west by several privately owned properties accessed via Grant Street or via East Royalty Road. These properties there's several properties, there's not just one along that boundary. Next slide. This rezoning request is not in relation to a planned development proposal and is being sought to establish base land use designation under the OP and a base zone under the the zoning and development bylaw. This process is a remnant of an annexation process that occurred in 2022. When the annexation process was completed, the OP and the zoning bylaw were not updated to give a supporting OP use and a supporting land use bylaw zone. And so this work is kind of extending from the annexation project. The applicants have sought East Royalty mixed use zone. Though no development is proposed, the proposed zone permits a variety of residential and commercial uses and even some institutional uses, and has specific requirements under the East Royalty Master Plan. Next slide. The subject property was successfully annexed into the city boundary in 2022. This process did not result in a rezoning or official plan amendment, leaving the parcel without development rights under a zone. Without the development rights, these create this situation in which this property does not have the ability to develop. Looking at the current land use bylaw, the only allowable uses currently allowed are non-conforming uses that are currently existing on site. So that leaves this parcel in a very specific predicament where it can't move forward with any development proposal under its current zoning, or lack thereof zoning. The parcel is not covered by most city plans due to its recent inclusion within the city boundary. The boundary for the East Royalty Master Plan does not include this area currently, and the city's OP land uses have ended prior to this parcel, so by the old city boundary. So with its lack of inclusion in our two core development enabling policies, this work is aiming to rectify that. Next slide. In accordance with section 3.10.4, amendments to bylaw and rezoning of the zoning and development bylaw, on June 27th, 2024, City Council approved a request to proceed to public consultation. So here we are today. On June 28th, 2024, a written notification was sent to property owners located within 100 meters of the subject property, notifying them of this meeting. In total, 16 letters were sent to residents advising them of the public meeting and requesting their written comments. To date, no written comments have been received. That's the end of my presentation. We can move it over to Sam Murphy, who is representing the owners of the parcel.
Sam, you can use the mic right over here and just press the speak button.
And just as we get set up, I'd clarify that it's Jamie Lewis and Scott Lewis who will be doing the presentation.
Okay, good.
David, you give them the clicker.
Scott, is this, and then Jamie? Jamie, you can grab the other mic there, so both of you have a mic, or you can just use the same mic. Good, okay. Go ahead, sir.
Good evening, Your Worship and councillors of the City of Charlottetown, City Planning Board, city staff, and members of the public. My name is Jamie Lewis, and I'm here with my business partner, Scott Lewis. We also have with us Samantha Murphy for technical support. We'll be acting together in making this presentation. We are here to respectfully request that our application to establish a base zone for the current on-zone property located next to the intersection of St. Peter's Road and PEI Route 25, identified as PID 140087, be approved. To give a little background, we have been envisioning this area as a service center for the surrounding communities for a number of years. We started by approaching the city with a request to be brought inside the city boundaries. After a number of community meetings and application through IRAC, the province approved the annexation of our property and several others by the city. The land is currently unaddressed in city plans and does not have a base zone needed to enable development. Our application to the city is to amend Appendix A, the future land use map of the City of Charlottetown's official plan from unlisted land uses to Village Center Commercial, and amend Appendix G, zoning map of the Charlottetown zoning and development bylaw from zoning not assigned to East Royalty Mixed Use Village Center, ERMUVC, for the property identified as PID 140087. The East Royalty Master Plan speaks of creating a local village center with local services and a walkable community, and the proposed zone, East Royalty Mixed Use Village Center, would offer a logical extension for land use patterns involved or included in the East Royalty Master Plan. As indicated on the previous slide, very little land has been identified to offer that village center, with the only area with that zoning currently being Grant Street. We want to enhance the quality of life for the residents of East Royalty and surrounding communities by having a village center that will provide services for all. Our property, strategically located on St. Peter's and York Roads, contains 69.3 acres. The property is ideally situated to serve the fastest-growing area of Charlottetown. In the past 5 years, the population of East Royalty has risen quickly. Some factual examples. The new neighborhood of Montgomery Heights has 1,940 new residents and an additional population of 1,275 to be added within the next 5 years. The neighborhood of Horseshoe Hill will have a population of over 500 within the next 5 years. The neighborhood of Bridle Path is progressing in development. These are just a few examples, as there are other developments presently occurring in East Royalty. The 2015 master plan projected a population of the East Royalty area of approximately 17,550 residents and 2,500 employees. When the area is fully grown out, a level of growth that has certainly played out in the last 5 years.
We think that we as developers and you as lawmakers, we all need to be visionary for the future. Achieving sustainable housing and communities with thriving services for current and future generation involves developers who need to be able to plan and build those communities. All levels of government have been talking about creating policies with flexible approaches that encourage developers to build thriving communities. As developers, however, at this time of very high infrastructure costs, having base zoning in place and some certainty as to the range of uses that could be permitted is key to being able to go forward with cost-effective planning. From our perspective, we feel that the property is well situated to become home to local services in East Royalty area, given the significant population growth already seen and expected in the future in that area. We feel strongly that the residents of this area need those services that this village center can provide. If granted the East Royalty Mixed-Use Village Center zoning, this 69-acre site could ideally allow a range of recreational, commercial, and institutional uses, such as a clubhouse with recreational fields for such sports as cricketball, softball, pickleball, and tennis courts, and other sports. As the community grows, so will the demand for services such as an indoor recreational facility. We also think a portion of the site would service the residents well with social services, such as a medical center with health and dental offices, possibly even personal care and hair salon, daycare facilities, independent senior care homes and nursing home, and even possibility of funeral home services. The list of potential uses in the East Royalty Mixed-Use Village Center zone is broad. Other community services will potentially follow the growth we are seeing, and our site could be host to those. We also see the Village Center as a vehicle in creating jobs and services for the residents of the surrounding area. The Village Center zoning also allows for grocery stores, convenience store, automotive service station, restaurants, drive-through business, an EV charging center station, retail stores, laundromat, veterinary service. All of these services will require staff and offer great opportunity for residents of surrounding areas. Before we can begin to think about how and where these various uses might fit together, however, we need the certainty of base zoning that would allow us to engage with the city and other parties regarding the servicing and other requirements that would be needed as we move forward with more detailed planning. As we have indicated since we first approached the city in 2018 regarding extending the municipal boundaries to include our property, we have a positive interest in seeing the property developed for a potential mix of uses ranging from commercial services, institutional services, and sport and recreational services in a way that is beneficial to the city, to the area residents, and to the surrounding communities. We thank you for your consideration.
Mr. Lewis, Monsieur Lewis, that's, Samantha, do you want to add any?
Not at this time, but if there are questions, I'm here to answer them.
Okay, okay. So we'll open it up for questions. Please just give us your name, where you live. You don't have to tell us an address. Is it Charlottetown? Is it East Royalty? Or is it York? Just and speak into the mic. So the mic is open.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Barbara. I live in Charlottetown. I came unprepared because I didn't read anything about this, but I was aware that the previous use of the land is, it showed vacant and agricultural uses, I saw somewhere. And I was just wondering, in your plan, which is very commendable, whether you have any, because I didn't see it in your long list, which may not be inclusive of everything, a community garden, given that the agricultural land is already there and we have excellent agricultural land, it would be, have you given any thought to preserving some of that so that East Royalty also has, similar to the Legacy Garden, a place where there's green space and that could act as a general park, and also for community gardens with more and more people doing their own gardening and taking food security or food insecurity into account? That would be my first question.
Barbara, could you just list the questions and then she can answer them all as one?
Okay, well, I guess my other one would be, I saw the various recreational facilities have, and again, this may be all premature because you're still working on this, I presume, having just a general playground. Playgrounds nowadays are for all generations, and there are fantastic examples across North America of just wonderful, wonderful playgrounds for all ages and all. And that would be wonderful. And also, there is a new official plan that will be coming into place. Have you looked at any of that to see whether what you're will also fit to some degree into that new official plan? Not that it needs to, I realize, but that then in 3, 4, 5 years down the road, people what you have projected or planned, also that they see that, oh, that's cool, it really fits into the into parts of the new official plan, even though it's not official yet, and maybe another little while before it does become official. I think that's it.
So we're just putting up the slide, Jamie and Scott, vision for the property. Is that what you were referring to, Barbara? Can you expand that? Yeah, it's on there. Just expand it? Okay, we'll leave it at that. Okay.
Well,
Okay. Go ahead.
I'll just speak to the playground. The city, from what I understand, they're looking for parkland, and there'll have to be land granted for parkland in this project. So I agree. Suitable play areas are important. I have 2 young grandchildren, soon to have 3, and my wife's always taking them around trying to find parks or parkland to play in. So I think the city would take that into consideration, and yeah, I think it's important for them. So, you want to speak in the garden, Scott, or the?
Move this along. Sorry, the speaker along. The garden centers is one of the permitted uses. So there's, the idea of growing things is contemplated. I think in terms of whether there's a community gardens, that would be something that would be developed as the concept is developed over time. It's just been too premature to even think about distribution of uses until there's zoning. But I think that definitely would be the type of conversation that would come up.
Okay, yeah, because the way I saw garden center, the way I see it's being used here would be something like Jules or Van Kampens or something along those lines. And of course, we're also looking at climate change and all the effects of climate change with water runoff and stormwater and things like that. So are there any, again, because this is just a proposal, would there be a part of that agricultural land preserved? Or would there be a possibility to take that into consideration to potentially see about maintaining part of the agricultural land for future agricultural uses? That's not necessarily a question you need to answer. It's just, yeah.
I'm sure that'll be taken into consideration. The third question you had was about the OP process, and yes, we've all attended various open houses and have spoken with Uplands and O2 folks. I think that the timing was a bit challenging in the sense that they started in the middle of all of the annexation, and it was sort of lining everything up was complicated. But looking at especially the master plan and thinking about the walkable communities and having local services without having to drive over to West Royalty and to the sort of Canadian Tire area. There are very few places in the East Royalty neighborhood where that could be accommodated currently. So that's sort of why I think it matches that concept for East Royalty.
Because I think you had said one of your Mr. Lewis's.
Okay.
Am I going to have my overtime?
Barbara,
Okay.
Barbara, we appreciate the idea. I think we got our timer there too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate the idea of a community garden. It is a good idea, and I'm sure that we can work something out with the Lewis brothers or the Lewis partnership. Thank you. Okay, mic is open. Mr. Forbes want to speak? Mr. Forbes?
Hello?
Did you wish to speak to it?
Oh, okay, you're addressing me now. I was just waiting. There's nobody in present there that's going to speak?
Kathy, do you want to say anything, or do you just want to let him go? Defer to him first.
Whatever.
We'll defer to him first because he's online. Okay?
Okay, thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Just
I
give
guess
us your
you're addressed as
name.
your
We
worship,
know
is
you're
it?
in Ontario, but just give us your name and proceed.
Okay, yeah, it's Martin Phobes. Thank you.
Okay.
I don't really have questions per se, just basically general comments. I was encouraged by the use of terms walkable community and sustainability. I wouldn't be encouraged by words like drive-through. I think we have enough in Charlottetown of car-based planning. I would be much more encouraged by this if I knew it was going to be, people-based planning, pedestrian-based planning. I guess also the loss of farmland, just to sort of reiterate the previous speaker, it's kind of contradicting statements made by public officials regarding loss of farmland, building up rather than out. I guess my concern in this regard is exacerbated by, somebody mentioned not having to go to the Canadian Tire area. I would hope that we wouldn't be duplicating that type of development in that area, in the proposed area. Excessive, what I would consider there to be excessive light pollution, excessive noise, and lack of pedestrian infrastructure, as well as excessive parking and whatnot. I hope sustainable planning practices would be employed to the greatest extent as possible. I did notice in the opening statement they didn't mention that the neighboring lands also access onto St. Peter's Road, which mine does. So I was just going to make sure that was correct. I don't go through Grand Street to access directly onto St. Peter's Road. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Phobes. Mr. Fraser, I know you checked in with Jason. Do you wish to respond?
Not as much respond. It's just it was a broader statement. I think Sam addressed parts of it. I just wanted to note that we are not at a detailed land use planning stage with this. We are looking at solely zoning because the parcel is such a large parcel. We're not kind of considering this as like at the point where we would be discussing or at least confirming that things like playgrounds or amenity spaces, those kind of things are not necessarily being proposed by this application. So it was just, it ended up getting mirrored heavily by Sam there. So I'll just kind of walk back from that there now.
Kathy, just give us your name back. Kathy, I know you live in East Royalty.
Great. Thank you, Mayor Brown. Yes, Catherine Parkman.
Just bring it down.
In this area of Charlottetown. I just have two questions I'd like to leave with the planning department. One is when this extension to boundaries happened in 2022, it included 7 properties, but there's only one in this amendment. And it'd be good to explain the reasoning for that. And my second question I'd like to leave with you is, what is the cost of extending water and sewer services out to the corner of York Road and St. Peter's Road? I would think that the Water and Utility Commission would likely have an estimate on that. I'd be interested in knowing that cost. Thanks.
Mr. Gundrum or Michael, can you respond to her first question? And then we have our Director of Integrated.
Dave, I can probably take this one.
Go ahead.
Okay, so at this stage of the development process, we don't have things that matter to the utility quote. So, for example, if there was an increased density or a lower density, so let's say two hypotheticals, there would be differences to the pipe infrastructure and the road infrastructure improvements that would need to occur for that servicing. That being said, servicing capacity does have to be upgraded by the applicant, and a water concept and a servicing concept will be proposed as development is proposed. What we have done in terms of utility and servicing is we've ensured that the servicing that is available in the area can be upgraded. There is pipe infrastructure for both water and sewer that goes to the southern edge of the parcel. And that servicing is able to be upgraded. Those are the confirmations we've done, but we don't have a specific quote as to what that work would necessarily be, because we don't have a density or a land use concept in place based off of it's a 69-acre parcel. If this was very dense, it would require specific upgrades. It would require more than if this is on a lower end of density. So at this stage, we've confirmed the feasibility of servicing. We have not confirmed a quote or a servicing, well, what we would call a servicing concept.
Thank you, Michael. Okay. Do we have any questions from council for clarification, for comments? Again, all we're doing is trying to get information that maybe we didn't understand or want clarification. Councillor Beck and then Councillor McKinnon.
So, yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Mixed-use village is a zoning that I'm not familiar with. Or it's new to me, put it that way. I'm still new to the job, right? So I'm still learning.
And you're doing a good job.
Anyway, on the mixed-use village, there was a whole bunch of potential usages they could put up there. Are those all as of right? There's no specific zoning requirements that, so they can all go wherever.
I think, Councillor Bernard, I respect what you're saying, but I think it should go to the planner or the manager if you want a clarification.
Yeah.
I can clarify there.
Yeah, go ahead.
So each of those uses do have use rules that would have to be accommodated. Like say, for example, if there was a height or a setback for a specific part of the parcel, those are limitations that do exist. But in terms of what was listed on that slide, all of those are allowable uses within the zone. We can permit them. That's not to say that we can permit them in any form. There are form rules, but any of those uses would be allowable.
Thank you.
Councillor McKinnon.
Thank you, Your Worship. I had a question, and Kathy Parkman alluded to it as well. Can I get slide number 1 put up, please?
Do you guys have better access to it, Samantha, or do you want? What slide is
The
done?
first presentation, the first slide.
Do you want Michael's or?
I think it was Michael's.
Okay,
Thank
go
you.
to Michael's. You should be able to bring that right up. And it was the first slide? Okay. It's black screen. It's going to light up there.
Yep.
That's it?
So it does, like, as Ms. Parkman alluded to, there's other properties on this, like what was annexed, but there's only, like, it looks like a paddle of what's being proposed here. are the other properties already zoned for something else, and if not, why are they not included?
Michael?
I can speak to that. This parcel, those parcels that came in through the annexation had a central group that was working on it. This has just the applicant of this parcel, which is common with rezoning applications because it's further down the development continuum. So as we move towards development and as we move towards enabling certain parcels of having certain rights to create certain development, this parcel has proposed this use. There's no broader group that is all working together in the same way as the annexation. So at this point, we are just working on this parcel's potential future uses rather than the broad areas, individual, each parcel's land uses. This is the one that came up through the applicant.
Good. Okay, Councilor Matard.
Your worship. So just to clarify on that, the other 6 parcels, PID numbers there, they're not owned, or they're not with this group? Is that my understanding? They are separate? So
I don't know if they happen to own overlapping parcels, but they're not part of this. And I believe that they did not have the same owner. Any of the other parcels did not have the same owner listed when we searched the titles. So as far as I'm aware, these are all separately owned, and this is the only one being represented by this group. But I believe there's people in the room that could speak to that as well.
Okay, just need clarification on that. Thank you.
Scott, Jamie, Samantha, PID number 140087, that's what's being discussed. Who owns it?
It's owned by 101523 PEI Inc., which is represented by Scott and Jamie. You're correct, this is the only parcel that is part of the application and is part of their concept. I believe as part of our process of submitting, a letter was sent by Scott and Jamie to the adjoining property owners to advise them of where we were thinking and the type of zoning we were pursuing, but they didn't participate in a joint application.
And as Scott mentioned, this has been going on since 2018, because when I first arrived in office, this was one of the first files, and here we are in 2024. Councillor Twill. Question?
First of all, I want to welcome the Lewis brothers here to City Hall. Thank you for your presentation. Your concept of local village center is pretty exciting. It really is. I think it's long overdue. This community has been waiting a long time to be able to, have trade and commerce in their own community and not have to travel very far. I think that's a very positive thing. And some of the possibilities that you illustrated in your presentation, I think it's fantastic. From a Parks and Recreation perspective, we're certainly very enthusiastic to work with both you gentlemen and to come up with a development that is a win-win for not only yourselves, but more importantly for the community. So I think it's tremendous. We've been waiting a long time.
Councillor
I know, Councillor Bernard, you've talked about this for a long time.
Councillor Twill.
Yes.
Just a point of order. This is a public information.
Oh, I know it's a public.
No, just let me finish.
Up to my
Let me
question.
finish. I'm speaking from the chair. You're giving, this is for comments, questions. Your opinion is to be, your opinion can be expressed when the resolution is on the floor.
Oh, okay.
Again, you're jeopardizing and you're putting yourself in conflict of interest.
No,
So
it's not a matter.
End up your comments,
I
please.
understand that, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
But I think, when you look at a significant development like this, I think we need to welcome these folks here to City Hall.
Okay.
And thank them for all the due diligence that they've done thus far.
Again, we have to be cognizant of the fact that this is a public consultation to get public information. As elected officials, we're here to listen and then deliberate that information from anything that we receive as of tomorrow, July 11th, and anything that we receive here tonight. So I'm opening the floor up to Councillor Bernard. I have a speaker that's waiting to speak, so can we let him speak first? Your name, sir? No, your name. We'll let you go.
Daniel Mullen.
Danny Mullen and Charlottetown or
I'm the one resident in the annexed area.
Oh, are you? Okay.
So I'm literally the last resident of Charlottetown. There is some history here. There was a lot of controversy. Outside of the city, the neighbors in Marshfield, the neighbors in York, were quite upset. There was a public meeting in York a couple of years ago, and it was highly animated. So those people don't have standing to come here because they're not residents. So here I am speaking. So the first thing was, for the Lewises, you did push for the annexation of the land, and that caused a number of other properties, obviously, to come along for the ride. And I believe you have 69 acres, and in total there's about 120 acres annexed. And at the meeting in York, and in all your presentations, you've said there's no specific plans. We just need this as a tool so as to be able to start to work. Yet at the same time, your very first presentation, the first thing you talk about is there's going to be parkland, there's going to be cricket, there's going to be a clubhouse. It sounds like there's something already in the pipeline. And the people in York especially are convinced that you have very specific plans and you're looking for this as a kind of joker card that allows you to do whatever you want in a commercial center. That's the first point I'm trying to bring up. The second thing is we want to be really careful here. In Sherwood, there is a street that's going to be extended, which is going to greatly benefit a couple of developers who are putting in lots of housing. We need lots of housing. But normally, if you're a developer taking raw land, you put in the street, you put in the stormwater, you put in the water lines, you put in the sewer lines, and in some cases, you put in the underground power too. And those developers have gotten a free ride. And the question is going to be, given the fact that you're a good kilometer away from the last lift station, and lift stations cost $500,000, are you going to be putting up all these costs, or are you going to be coming back to the taxpayers through either the municipality or the province or the feds looking for assistance? Because it's going to be a major cost to put that infrastructure in place. And that's the next thing. The other question is, of course, like I said, have there already been discussions, preliminary, hypothetical discussions with the city as to uses of parkland or playing fields or things like this? Because that again goes to the whole notion that there have been discussions, that there are plans, and that this is a carte blanche for you as a developer to come in and do what you want to do. Now, the other thing is, residents are not going and beating down the mayor's door saying we need more coffee shops and we need more service stations. What they are saying is we need more housing. So is there any provision for any parcels in your land which are going to be made available for housing? Now, I'm not talking about a senior's home. I'm talking about an apartment building, row houses, or anything that's going to do something to take the pressure off people in the area. Because I deal with a lot of commercial developers around North America, and I've talked to them about that particular area, and they've said, we wouldn't build anything there in terms of a supermarket or a strip mall or anything like that until the area builds out more. And that's because people tend to go to the core. If you're living in Montgomery Heights, you're going to hop in your car and you're going to drive towards Charlottetown because that's the pattern. You're not going to drive towards Mount Stewart looking for a store. First grocery store you're going to find is in Morel. So any stores that are built in the York corner are actually going to be attracting people from outside the city. It's their view that until they see development in Marshfield and Dunstaffnage and York in these areas, that this commercial development makes sense. And lastly, you asked for the annexation. Why did you not ask for this designation as part of the annexation process? Because one, it's a lot slower to do it this way, and it feels like you said, let's get inside the city, then let's change this to get this, like I said, wild card designation that allows you to do, as you show there in your list, almost anything, from a funeral home to a tire changing place to, a fire station. So if we're going to do this, let's deal with all of the properties at the same time, all of those PIDs that are there. And in reality, let's face it, the other properties there are a automotive service center, a contractor, and a garden center, and a couple of food sellers. So I have to end my time, but the point is, we should deal with this properly and zone everyone all the same right now at the same time, or go through a formal planning process. Thank you.
Okay. Which Louis wants to deal with it, Samantha or Michael, do you want to deal with it? Michael
So I
Fraser?
have a couple of clarifications just from things that were said.
What's that?
I have a couple of clarifications just from things that were said.
Thank you.
I might end up referring to Sam after this though. So one thing just to note is there's been no discussions of specific uses at this time. We have kept it at a rezoning level discussion. We have not kind of discussed specific use concepts or anything along those lines, and that's why this request has not put forward one. Just to clarify that that's the case. And regarding the lift station, once again, the servicing concept has not been put into place, but the servicing concept will be something that will depend on the scope of uses. For example, like as mentioned, if multifamily were to be proposed in this space, that would create an entirely different amount of use for servicing. And so at this time, we do not have a specific servicing concept in place to know whether or not a lift station, whether or not multiple lift stations would need to be in place or anything along those lines. But servicing does have to be proposed as part of the development process. And this is not what we're seeking at this time. So just to clarify those things, but I'll pass it off to Sam there.
Samantha Murphy?
So the only thing I'll add is that apartments and I think mixed commercial and residential is also permitted in that zone. And, again, until there's zoning in place, the property owners can't go any further in sort of exploring the range and of uses and sort of where and how they might be developed. So definitely a possibility, and we know it's a need right now in the province and in the city, but there are no details yet.
Okay. Councillor Bernard, did you want to ask?
But I know Kathy Parkman was asking about the cost and so on of the water servicing, which is usually paid by the developer. So I just want to clear that up. It's not usually the city that puts in the water services, it's the developer. I will add, though, while I have the mic, is I know the Lewis brothers, they own the property where Montgomery Heights is, which is around, I think, 155 acres that's being developed all residential now. I know we've had conversations since 2018 about the need for this property to, because they had asked, they were looking for a friendly annexation. So it's certainly something I believe the city is looking for, the city needs in that end of the city. So I think there's been a lot of property for residential. There could be some more here. I think the zoning they're asking for, basically what this is saying is all these are possibilities. But the property has to be zoned before you can go to the next step. So, thank you.
Okay. So, just want to clarify one thing. As Scott knows, this process was not always in our hands. It had to go to IRAC. There was a number of steps that had to come to this point, so appreciate your presentation. Thank you, Samantha. Okay, we'll move on to 94 Watts Avenue, PID number 757484. And Patty Larkin is here. Yeah, and Sonia will present first. Just 1 second, Sonia.
Sure.
Okay.
Can I share my screen?
Yeah, just 1 second. Patty, do you want to come up here? You can just grab a seat here and then, yeah. That's all right. We just we need a body in the chair. Martin is the son of Walter Phobes. They own the land. They own land. They own land. One of those PID numbers belongs to them. It's the one that's closest to M&M. So that would be, I think, the one at the start. Okay, Sonia, are you ready to go?
Yes.
Oh, she's doing a share. Okay, screen share. Okay. And we
Can
get
you
the timer.
confirm if you can see my screen?
Okay, Sonia, you'll have to speak up.
Can you confirm if you can see the screen?
We can see the screen, and
Okay.
just speak loud enough so that we can all hear you. Thank you.
Good evening, Your Lordship, members of council, ladies and gentlemen on the public. This is a request for site-specific exemption in the heavy industrial M2 zone of the zoning and development bylaw as it pertains to 94 Watts Avenue, PID number 757484, which proposes the existing building on the subject property be used as a commercial daycare center and that a commercial daycare center be added as an additional permitted use within the M2 zoning that applies to the property. In accordance with Section 3.10.4 of Zoning and Development Bylaw, on June 19, 2024, City Council approved a request to proceed to public consultation concerning the application. On June 25, 2024, written notification was sent to property owners located within 100 meters of the subject property. A total of 12 letters were sent to property owners advising them of the public meeting this evening and to request their written comments and feedback. To date, no written responses have been received. The applicant is the authorized agent of Dojam Inc., the owner of the subject property. The applicant is also the owner of Alpha Holdings Inc., which operates Just for You Children's Center, currently located at 51 Watts Avenue, which is situated southwest of the subject property. The property is currently occupied by a single-story structure formerly used as a research center. The surrounding area contains a mix of business park industrial M3 and heavy industrial M2 zoned properties. The properties located adjacent to the north and south of the subject property are also within the business park industrial M3 zone. This is the air photo of the subject property. And here is a quick summary of the attributes. Some of the positive attributes are that the proposed use would help to address and elevate current demand for new and expanded daycare centers in Charlottetown. And the proposed use would provide a supporting service for working families within a well-established employment area close to where people work. The official plan is supposed to create business parks which have services and facilities that are state-of-the-art and responsive in a evolutionary sense. Some of the neutral attributes are that the use would occupy a building that is otherwise currently vacant. A few shortcomings would be the proposed development could impact the existing privacy that abutting users have become accustomed over time. The Planning and Heritage Department is hereby soliciting comments and feedback from the public and members of the public concerning the following site-specific exemption for the subject property located at 94 Watts Avenue to allow the existing building on the subject property to be used as a commercial daycare center and that a commercial daycare center be added as an additional permitted use within the M2 zoning that applies to the property. Following collection of the public and council feedback and comments in this evening, a recommendation and resolution are planned to be forwarded to Planning Board and Council respectively on the following upcoming meeting dates: on July 18th, Planning Board, and on July 23rd, Council. This is the end of my presentation, and Patty Larkins is here. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. Councilor Tron, I know I can't see you, but if you do have questions, just put up your hand virtually.
Thank you.
Okay, so the mic is open for 94 Watts Avenue, PID number 757484. Okay. So we'll move on. Do you have a question, Councillor Beck? I'm always trying to address you. Councillor Twill, you're all right? Okay. Patty, thank you for taking the seat. Okay. So 149, 151 Great George Street, PID numbers 34, 2386 and 34, 2402. I know we have some members from, yes, could you please take is John Cudmore going to be part of it? And Philip? He'll be. So if you want to just grab another chair there and good. Okay. So Deputy, I think it's Mr. Gundrum going to present first. I think that's Mr. Gundrum.
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, you're welcome, and thank you, Your Worship, members of council, members of the public in attendance tonight. The following application is a request for a site-specific exemption to the zoning bylaw to allow for an 8-story, 85-unit apartment building to be constructed on the subject property, 149, 151 Great George Street, PID numbers 342, 386, and 342, 402. That would have ground floor commercial space and would be subject to the bonus height requirements of the zoning and development bylaw. Slide up on the screen shows the air photo, and I'll just note for council and members of the public that it does encompass 2 parcels as noted, the 2 different PID numbers. There would be an accompanying lot consolidation which has been received by the city that would be processed as part of the request for rezoning, or site-specific exemption rather. So again, the development proposal is a site-specific exemption request intended to replace the existing 2-story commercial building on the subject property with an 8-story, 85-unit apartment building having ground floor commercial space. The following are renderings that the applicants have provided to the city that show the proposed scale and massing of the building at the 8-story height. Context for the site: property is located at the southwest corner of Great George Street and Kent Street, shown here. It is located within the downtown core zone, which is adjacent to established commercial and mixed-use residential uses. And as previously noted, the subject property contains a 2-story commercial building containing office and business use, which has been present on the site for many years. Just an overview, the proposed change of use for the site from entirely commercial use, which is currently the case, to contain primarily residential use in a higher density format, is in general agreement with the applicable policies and objectives of the official plan for the downtown core land use designation that applies to the subject properties. The proposed change of use, while displacing established commercial space in the downtown core, would offer the opportunity to house more residents in close proximity to existing amenities and would offer synergies to support existing established commercial businesses in the immediate area. It is also noted that a new commercial space component is proposed for the development, which would compensate for the proposed loss of commercial space on the subject property. The official plan does support creation of higher density residential uses in the downtown core, as well as promotion of mixed residential commercial uses on the same site. As far as our legislative statutory requirements are concerned, in accordance with Section 3.10.4 of the Zoning and Development Bylaw, on June 27, 2024, City Council approved the request to proceed to public consultation. On June 28th of 2024, written notification by mail was sent to property owners located within 100 meters, 328 feet of the subject property. A total of 30 letters were sent to residents advising them of the public meeting this evening to solicit comments and feedback. And to date, there have been no written responses that have been received by the planning office. So to conclude at this point, the next steps following this evening, I will note for council and the public's information that the proposed development is subject to the design review process because it is located within the 500 lot area. So there will be a recommendation coming to the design review board at their next meeting on Monday, July 15th. And also subsequent to tonight's collection of public feedback, There would be a recommendation provided to Planning Board on July the 18th, and then a resolution forwarded to Council for consideration out of that Planning Board meeting on July 23rd. So that is a summary of the proposal, the requirements and the next steps in the process, and I'll turn it back over to the Mayor and Chair and open it up to the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gundrum. So the proponents are here. Do you wish to start off? And just please give us your name and your role. You have a presentation for them too? Okay.
Thank you, everyone, for allowing us to speak tonight, for coming to see what we have to offer. My name is April Robertson. I work with Coles Associates. We've been hired by our client, who we're presenting on behalf of, to bring their vision to reality. David has spoken about what amendments, site-specific, that we are requesting. And I'm going to speak a little bit towards the actual building and why we're asking for these site-specific amendments. As David had mentioned, we're looking to develop an 8-story, 85-unit, mainly residential building on this quite prominent lot within Charlottetown. Our client has recognized that currently there's an underutilized commercial building there, which provides great opportunity to really help out with the issue that we're all aware of, which is housing within our province. So we really have an opportunity to help. So 8 stories, 85 units, and we're really looking to make this accessible to everyone. So we are meeting all of the requirements for CMHC in terms of affordability and accessibility. So anybody that is in need of housing has the opportunity to potentially live here. We are providing commercial space on the first floor, or the main floor, to keep within that downtown core zoning theme, essentially. And we really are, when we're talking about designing this, we're really forward-thinking. So we're taking into account all of the things that we're facing right now with climate change and like residential considerations. So we're looking into putting solar, so that brings down electricity costs, putting in energy efficient heat pumps. We're gonna have a generator, which are, when I speak of resident considerations, each unit is gonna have an outlet that is on that house generator. So with the climate change that we're facing, I know even this year we're heading into the most extreme hurricane season. We experienced Fiona last year. So we're getting into this climate where these things are affecting us in terms of financially and things like that. So when we address the affordability of the units, we're thinking of, if we get into these climate changes, people are worried about the financial aspect of losing food and things like that. So we're trying to address all of these aspects within this building to really benefit everybody and to address the housing crisis that we're currently in. Things like for resident considerations, there's going to be storage access available. There's going to be a gym in the building. Window blinds are going to be part of the fit up to help counteract any of that passive heating, because if you look at the elevations, there's lots of glazing in this building. So they'll be counteracting the electricity costs that would potentially come with that passive heating by providing those blinds for any of the residents. Efficient heating and cooling, which is per unit. Everybody has their own controls for that. They're all one-bedroom apartments, complete with full-size kitchens, full-size appliances, and laundry within each unit. We have 14 barrier-free units within our 85-unit building, and we've made it so that on every floor except for the basement, there's at least one barrier-free unit available. So it's again, looking at that accessibility for everyone, treating everyone equally. In our barrier-free units, we're gonna have the option of a shower or a bathtub. They'll be both provided, just to open it up to a broader resident as well. As I had mentioned, we're gonna have a generator, and each unit is gonna have at least one outlet that has access to that generator, so you can get your coffee in the morning when the power's out. All our units are about 500 square feet. And the reason that we're seeking this site-specific exemption is because our lot is not currently and cannot be large enough to accommodate the 8 stories within the current bylaws and zoning. And if you, I think, David, you still have the remote. If you flip to the next page, this one here, yeah. So, next one. This one, thank you. That's my timer.
Can you sum it up to
Yeah, absolutely.
April?
This image just indicates neighboring properties that are 5 stories or higher. This indicates a 2-block radius. If you get beyond the 2-block radius, if you take a walk around downtown Charlottetown, you will see that there are a significant amount of buildings already developed that are over that 4-story, 6-story datum. So we're not really reaching too far by asking for this amendment.
Thank you, April. There will, I'm sure, be some follow-up questions, so there's John and Gordon and yourself and the team behind you. So, David, that wraps it up, so we can open it up for questions. Please just give your name and where you're from, and it's open mic.
I'm back. So, I want to
Just
say
again,
first,
Mr. Mullen, just for the record, I know we know you, but it's Mr. Danny
Mullen.
Danny Mullen in Charlottetown?
Charlottetown.
Oh,
resident
okay.
of Charlottetown.
Okay, outside Charlottetown. Okay, thank you.
No, inside Charlottetown.
Okay.
After Sobeys builds a grocery store in my house, I may be moving into this place.
Okay, good.
So the first
Good.
thing I want to say is this is fantastic, and I'd like to see 10 more of these being built. This is what we need downtown. This is bringing vitality back, and you're present in many places. You're active not just in Charlottetown, and I think it's fantastic that you used a local company that understands the local needs of the local people to do this design. That's important. The city of Charlottetown has in the past hired design companies from outside the province, and they design intersections that don't work and things like this because they don't even come here and see what's going on. So I only have 2 things that I'd like to ask. One, since Holman's was built, there's that awful ramp on the west side of that property, which is an eyesore, and I don't know if you need it anymore. Can you do something about getting rid of that? I used to be a tenant in that building 30 years ago, and it was a place where dust and dirt and snow and boxes and lately people have been hanging out. The other question is, on the south side of the building, because this is going to be a great idea, the issue is what happens when the guy next door wants to put something up? How much spacing is there going to be? Because obviously you have to have glass for all sides. It's going to be an issue to put up another larger building next door. Have you made any thoughts or provisions for doing that? Because this is going to be a big success. This is fantastic. Like, whatever the rules are, we've got to enable this. This is fantastic.
Yes, as part of the whole development, we will be addressing the ramp. I'm assuming where the loading dock is goes into the mall. Yes, that's part of our plan to improve that area significantly. Yes. Yep. And as far as your other question, we have, you're speaking about the Dow's property. We've been in close conversations with them, and we're friends. And so we've talked about, the impacts of our building on them. And
Because eventually air rights will be an issue.
right, and as of right now, they haven't expressed any concerns, and we've you can talk a little bit about how we've dealt with that side of the building as it is now with Dow's, if you want, because we are going to have an impact. It's actually, it's actually created a bit of a challenge from the architectural point of view, so you can speak to that a little bit about how you've addressed that.
So on the Dow side, we do actually need to create a firewall. We are right on our property line.
Yep.
Another thing that we're gonna have to do is go in and investigate the structure of Dow's, because we will have an impact on the snow load of the Dow's building. And there will be, the results of that investigation, there'll be conversations if any remedial work has to be done. Other than that, we're within our property. There's not really anything that provides any conflict in terms of the Dow's building. If they eventually want to build up, they can build up as well. There will have to be, if that comes to light at some point in time, fire separation and things like that will have to be considered.
Yeah.
But right now, we are taking all of those code issues and life safety issues into consideration. And then the structural as well.
One last thing, because the public may not get this. The fact that you're going to have CMHC funding implies that you're going to have maybe 30% of these units are going to be at a certain cost?
So we do meet the criteria for affordable housing definition, and there's different levels, as you know. So that's all we can say at this point, that we do meet in all three criteria, So.
It's a fantastic project. We should start building it tomorrow, and let's build more.
Well,
we'd
we have
like
to follow,
to.
Mr. Mullen, we have to follow the process. So I think the time's up.
Sure. Thank you. I'll ring
Thank
the bell.
you.
Ding, ding. Thank you.
Thank you, and welcome to Charlottetown. So any other questions, please come to just give your name and where you're from.
Load that presentation. Yeah. Andrea Battison, Charlottetown. A lot of my questions were regarding design and image, so I did a presentation because pictures speak volumes. Okay, so thank you for the opportunity to comment. So I looked at this proposal with respect to the 500 lot design guidelines, which is a 2011 report, which was adopted by council and provided the way forward for how to build in the future. And that future is now. We're seeing it now. No one gave me a remote. The big button, okay. So I'll skip. So the rationale, the report's very specific about large buildings and that they have to be, they're very impactful and they have to be done right. And there's a lot of ways to do it using good design principles. And when you, backwards. And I don't have my pointer. Anyway, sorry. It's important is that appropriate setbacks and massing are especially important. And that's because you need to protect the streetscape and adjacent properties with respect to sky views, wind, and shadow. This needs to be done properly. There are diagrams in there that show you, say, on the left in the downtown core, if your building's up to 6 stories, it has certain setbacks above the 3rd floor. If you're at an 8th story or more than 6, that tower actually has to be set back even more from the street. And that's because it has to be respective of buildings beside it that might want to go up its neighbors, break up the sightline from the street, and protect the streetscape, which is the pedestrian realm, which is the part of the city that people enjoy here. And the next page, on the left, it shows you the bottom, that's the street with some lollipop trees, how buildings are stepped back away from the street to protect that pedestrian environment. And how that's supposed to work. And then on the right, that shows you how by setting back the towers enough from the street up to 10 meters, which is in the guidelines, that allows you to have two tall buildings beside each other. We look at the design requirements on the left from that report, and we compare it to the building as presented. The bottom X's are, as proponents said, they don't have the frontage that's even allowed to consider going up, or the depth for the lot. They don't appear to be setting the tower back from the edge. And there is a setback at the top, but there's no designs or elevations with any measurements, so I don't know if that's going back the 6 meters as required, or if it's set at the required level, or if it's too high, so blocking the skyline. We didn't get a site plan, so the green shows the requirements before you can even consider going up. The lot frontage of 135 feet, depth 118. The dashed line shows the size of the lot as presented in the report. It's too small. And the floor plan, the building seems to be going right up to the edge. And because the lot's too small, they are asking for all these exemptions that are designed to protect the street from high towers. So my concerns, to summarize them, big buildings, as the report says, have civic responsibilities. And I don't, from what I've seen, I don't feel that this design as proposed is meeting those civic responsibilities. And I don't think it should be supported. First of all, it's ineligible for even consideration for bonus height. And only today we've learned that the public benefit being offered is possibly affordable housing. That needs to be dealt with. Exempting the interior tower yard step back, I believe, the zoning bylaw and the 500 lot report's a bit different. That's going to be problematic if another building wants to go up beside it. There's no light for the occupants. You're going to have a solid canyon of wall of tall buildings viewed from the street. That's not good. Again, the question about the 6 meter step back, where it's located. And Kent Street is also an important street. And should we not also be stepping back that as a frontage? This is a tall block, and using the statement that, well, there's other buildings downtown that are going up straight and going up 8 feet and going straight out to the edge. These buildings were built before we had a plan to do better going forward. And I really think that council, if you haven't read that report and familiarized yourself with it, it's worth looking at it and seeing why they're asking for these requirements and what their purpose is, and really thinking hard about allowing a site-specific exemption and the ramifications. So thank you. Sorry, I didn't set my timer this time.
No,
and if
okay.
anyone could address those questions when I step back, I'd appreciate it.
So David or HIG, how do you wish to deal with this? David, do you wish to deal with it first?
Through the chair, I can make an attempt. So Andrea has addressed a lot of questions which will be dealt with at the design review board meeting next week. We do have professional review comments that have come in that have critiqued the proposal, and those will be presented to design review board at their meeting next week. I will say, Andrea, Ms. Battison was correct in the scope of the relief that's being asked for through the site-specific amendment. And a lot of that relief does tie into impacts to what the guidelines call for design review. So we've kind of put one step, the public meeting ahead of that design review process, but all of this will come together at the same time for consideration by planning board and council at those future meeting dates in July. So if that hasn't answered any fully the questions, I'd be happy to elaborate further, but I'll turn it back over to the chair.
April, John, Gordon?
I think that, as David said, they'll be addressed next Monday meeting. But in the one concern about the building next door, we own the property next door as well, our companies. So there's also the loading ramp that's there. That's going to stay in terms of the width. that addresses the concern of the next building, the National Bank Tower. So that's not gonna change. So that should address that concern. But other than that, the rest of her questions will be addressed through the design review.
And David, correct me if I'm wrong, but the design guidelines that were brought in 2011, the design review board came in 3 years later, correct?
Through the chair, as far as I know, that's correct, yeah.
Okay, and the purpose of the design review board is to address some of the questions that were brought up, correct?
Correct. It's to provide an opportunity to address the design guidelines as they apply to a particular development and to offer a recommendation to council as to whether the design should stand as presented by the proponents or if modifications should be recommended to it as part of that holistic process. So.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions from her? Yep. Just give your name.
My name is Barbara Dilla, Charlottetown. I did prepare something formally this time, so I can say good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to ask questions. My first two questions are about process or procedure, and they may be moot at this point given what was just said. Nevertheless, I would like to ask them. So the first one is, why is this application being presented to the public for comment without knowing what public benefit is being secured to obtain the bonus height? Because in section 3.12.1, bonus height applications must specify what specific public benefits are being secured for in certain zones when it pertains to building height. So that's the first question. The second question is, the bonus height requirements are subject to the design review process. Why is this application being presented to the public for comment before the design review report has been submitted and evaluated by the design review board and the planning board? Because section 3.12.4 says all applications for a bonus height are subject to the design review process, and 3.12.5 then follows to say that an application for a bonus height shall be submitted with sufficient information as may be required by the development officer for the purpose of adequately assessing the proposal, including the several points, A, B, C, D, E, D, being a cost estimate in a format acceptable to the development officer to quantify the detailed cost of the proposed public benefit, and E, such additional information as is deemed necessary, to ensure that the proposed bonus height and or massing meet the desired performance standard with respect to mitigating visual, shadow, wind, and traffic impacts. And so those two questions about process and procedures. My third question is, why were site plans and elevation drawings not included in the meeting package, as has normally been done in the past, to my recollection, so that the public can get a clear understanding of what is being proposed and so be able to submit the informed comments or submit informed comments for which a deadline is tomorrow. So if the deadline is tomorrow but the design review process has not taken place, then the public cannot submit informed comments. And then what happens afterwards when we get the information after the fact of a public meeting? Thank you again for the opportunity to ask the questions.
Barbara, did you say 3.12? What were the sections you referred to?
3.12.1.
Yeah.
3.12.4 and 3.12.5.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
David, do you wish to address it? Or?
Yeah, through the chair, I'll address them in the sequence that Barbara posed them here. So the public benefit that the proponents have put forth is for a proportion of the housing units to be affordable units as per CMHC definition. That is an acceptable form of public benefit that we have seen for other developments seeking bonus height previously in the city. That would be confirmed through a future development agreement, like the exact details around the provision for those affordable units would be confirmed through that future development agreement. Regarding the sequencing, whether to bring this forward for public consideration or to bring it forward to the design review board first, there's no requirement in the zoning bylaw that compels us to follow a particular sequence, whether to put one meeting ahead of the other. We were just, based on when the application was received, in the interest of moving this forward and collecting the public feedback, it's not really, in my mind, material which meeting comes first in that respect, because the formal recommendation will be forwarded to planning board following the conclusion of that entire process. So there's nothing in the regulation that says we have to bring it to design review board first to have the public meeting or vice versa. So we just brought this forward based on availability of meeting dates in the calendar that have been set by council to accommodate the process. The last question regarding site plan and elevation drawings. There are elevation renderings that have been provided to illustrate the proposed height and massing of the building. Those were provided during the presentation today. They were part of the public package. Regarding a site plan, the building footprint would consume the entire area of the site. And that was made known in the application submission to the city. So this isn't a case where there's other site elements that would have to be illustrated on a site plan. It's really almost 100% coverage of the extents of the site. So I don't know what amount of value a top-down site plan would have added to the information for the public. It's quite clear by the elevation drawings that the site will be entirely consumed by the new building, not unlike similarly the current building that sits there on the site today. So I hope that's helped address and answer Barb's questions, and I'd be happy to provide any further follow-up in that regard. Thank you.
Mr. Kirkpatrick.
I'll get the right one. The only thing I'd like to respond to is that she asked why we would present this in this manner, and in order for it to be viable and feasible to provide that affordable housing and attainable housing, that's why we presented it in this manner. That's what I'll say.
Okay. Do we have some questions, comments, concerns? Okay. So, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gundrum. Thank you. Oh, Councillor Beck, Ward 3.
Just to clarify once again, so the accessibility piece is 14 of 85. So that meets provincial standards, which I think is 15 or 10%, I believe.
David, do you have that number? The accessibility percentage, is it 10% or 15%?
Through the chair, I don't have that number, sorry. Yeah.
What number of units?
When we were dealing with that recent, another
470 Malpeck Road.
Yeah, and my recollection is 15% or 10%, I think is the minimum, and recommended 15. So anyway, it falls within. Are all units 500 square feet?
Would be 500. I think there's a few that are just under 500, but then there's several that are over 500 too. I think the maximum is 650 in that area, yeah.
Accessible units tend to be a bit larger based on the requirements for those units.
Just
Okay.
yeah.
So would they be one-bedroom units?
Sorry?
Would they be one-bedroom
Yes,
units?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. And just to confirm again, the number of affordable units would be determined with a development agreement
Right.
or at a later
Exactly.
stage.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll make one other comment too. The visit, I don't know if everybody's familiar with the visibility requirements that are in place now. So all the units meet the visibility requirements. Visitability requirements. Did I say visit? Visitability requirements, are you familiar? Is the council
No,
familiar
please.
with that? So it's not as stringent as the accessibility requirements, but it makes it the whole building friendly for if someone's coming to visit you in a wheelchair or whatever. You need a certain amount at each doorway to allow you to get in and out of the units and in and out of the bathrooms and stuff like that. So the whole building is designed for that as well.
And what's the term again, Gordy?
Visitability.
Thank you. Visitability.
Just follow up. Okay.
Councillor Beck?
When I was looking at the renderings, I did have a similar sort of question to what Andrea did propose there. And under your current, there's kind of like a demarcation after the second commercial story there. What's the inset? Or first of all, is there an inset there? And secondly, how far in does that go, if there is an inset?
I can answer it, but you go ahead. On the demarcation line, it's virtually the same plane.
Yeah, I could speak really quick on that.
Yeah, just give your name, please.
My name is J.B. Javier from Coles Associates.
Okay.
So that black cornice line there is sort of like the datum line that follows the building heights along Kent Street. So we're following that context along, Great George. So that's sort of like the median line that follows the building heights along that road. So there's no visual sense of 3 stories, then it bumps up. So there's a sort of a visual datum line that goes across that street. And that black cornice line demarks that. Thank you.
But is there an offset off the street?
The plane is the same. The face is the same.
Okay, thank you.
Good? Good. David, just a comparison, 80 Grafton Street. It's 6 stories, Key Murray Building. What's the offset there? Is it similar to what's being proposed here?
Through the chair, it would be of similar scale to that, yeah. And just further, I'll just note that part of the relief that would be bundled with this is relief from the frontages, as well as setbacks from the street, but also some of the step back requirements that would be required through the bonus height provisions. So there's a step back up on the 6th story proposed, but it would be a little bit short of what the bylaw otherwise calls for, and that's where we'll get into those discussions further through the design review process at design review board. So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Gordon. April, I believe it is. John and team, Philip. Thank you. I know that Councillor McKinnon has to leave, so he's leaving for a family issue. Thank you, Councillor McKinnon. We still have quorum. Councillor Drawn, you're still there?
Yes, I'm still here, Mayor Brown.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. So 20 Ralden Avenue, we have PID number 396937, David Gundrum. And I don't know if the proponents are here, but Mr. Gundrum.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just wait for the presentation to load up there. Okay, members, your worship, members of council, members of the public, following application is a request for a site-specific exemption for property addressed as 20 Ralden Avenue, PID number 396937. This is a site-specific exemption request from zoning to allow for an automotive repair shop on the subject property within the existing single-story building that's on the site. The intent is to convert the existing light industrial building, being 325 square meters, which currently contains a heating and plumbing business, to be converted to contain an automotive repair facility. The property is located on the southeast corner of Ralden Avenue and Darter Drive, is located within the low-density residential R2 zone, adjacent to established residential uses. And I'll note for council and the public's information that there is a similar light industrial use located across the street at 17 Ralden Avenue, shown here. Property contains, as noted, a single-story double bay shop building that has been on the site of a plumbing and heating business for many years and is considered a legal non-conforming use under the zoning and development bylaw. The proposed change of use it would evolve the existing legal non-conforming use into one of a similar scope that is focused on a different skilled trade, being automotive repair. The proposed change of use would not challenge or alter the historic light industrial nature and character of the subject property, and proposes to introduce a new service on the site that would be a benefit and in proximity to local residents who may use the service. The official plan contains a policy language which supports creation of new industrial land uses in response to economically based evolutionary changes in the community. With respect to our statutory and legislative requirements, in accordance with Section 3.10.4 of the Zoning and Development Bylaw, on June 27, 2024, City Council approved the request to proceed to public consultation. Subsequently, on June 28, 2024, written notification was sent to property owners within 100 meters, 328 feet of the subject property. A total of 34 letters were sent to residents advising of the public meeting tonight to solicit comments and feedback regarding the proposal. And to date, 2 written responses have been received, both in expressing opposition to the proposal and the application. So the next steps at this point in time, following tonight's public meeting, would be a recommendation being brought forward to Planning Board at their next meeting on July 18th, followed by consideration of resolution by Council on June 23rd. So that is summary of the application and the request, and I'll turn it back over to the Chair at this point. Thank you.
So, Mr. Gundrum, we have no one here to speak to it. The mic is open for anyone wish to make comment, and just please, just give us your name and where you're from.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm Chris Marlon Pereira, and I'm in 25 Macawson Drive, Charlottetown, in the neighborhood behind the property that we are talking about. So our concerns mainly is when you are having a automobile repair shop, one is the noise pollution, because we are living around, so that is one concern. And then if they are having operation hours and things like that, if they are going out of the overnight or whatever, that is one concern. And there are children living in that area, and also like elderly people as well, which are who are walking around. So the road over there, by having the automotive repair shop, we are going to have a conjunction of traffic, and as well as if you are having an automobile shop, the oil, the and the other stuff, how they are going to get it off the land would be like disposing, things like that. And then the smells as well will have the effect of the neighborhood. And also there is a in some of the neighborhood have their babies as well. So if the noise is, then that would be a concern. Thirdly, next I would like to express about the one second. And I would this is all a residential area. Like if you see in that whole stretch is all like duplexes built around, and also there are housing. So now getting a commercial establishment there, I would recommend if that they could build up like a duplex or housing like that, so that way it will have the residential atmosphere there. And also the other concern is that by having the commercial property put on, how the residents around is going to impact on property taxes. Because if it is going to be like again a residential, how it is going to be, and also if it is a commercial, how the property values are going to go down or up. Those are our concerns. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Christopher. Just give us your name and where you're from.
Louis Arsenault, Charlottetown.
Yes.
I live basically within probably 50 feet of the building that we're talking about. And
Sorry, your name again, sir?
Oh, sorry, Louis Arsenault.
Okay, thank you, Louis. Can you? Can we see your property on the map that was shown?
Yes, you can, yeah. I'll
Okay.
bring it up there
And
again.
I think Christopher's too?
And Chris be right next door to
Okay.
me, yeah.
Okay. There you are.
So we're basically, I'm right on the corner there, corner of Ralden and McCausland.
Yeah.
If you bring that light over right there, that's my place. And next to me, that's where Chris is.
Thank you.
And we also had a gentleman also from the neighborhood, he's a doctor, he had got called away, but he lives right over here on the opposite corner over across the street here.
Oh.
Up a little bit, right over there.
J.P. Robinson's.
So he was called away, but he had some concerns as well. And one of his concerns was the noise pollution in the area where, he's on call and trying to get rest in the area. And if there's noise, when you run a mechanic shop, there's a lot of noise involved with repairing cars or whatever it is you're going to do in there. I've been there for 20 years, and basically the area, I think that you guys may be familiar with the area if you've been in Charlottetown as long as like I have been. There's Creed's Petroleum around there too. That's now a boat shop of some sort. And of course we have Bob Coffin's place. And basically the whole area is really, it's an eyesore. Everywhere you look, there's either there's derelict cars or we have a boat shop there. And I understand people want to make a business and want to make a living, give other people a chance to find a job. But the boat shop itself, I mean, when they first started up, there was 2 or 3 boats, and they were working on their boats. But if you drive by there today, there's 15, and there's empty trailers all over the place. The surrounding area is not being looked after. There's like high-grown grass in areas, and it just looks messy. And it's decreasing our property value. I understand that it is. It always has. I think I'm being treated fair regarding what I pay for taxes in the area versus what somebody would be paying up in closer to Sherwood School, for instance. But I think that it's time that in regards to that area, that it should be treated the same way as the rest of Sherwood, which is a place everybody wants to go and live. In my area, it's places where people kind of avoid going to live. And it's highly talked about in regards to people that you live up in that area. Oh, that building behind you is a real eyesore. And it is a real eyesore because nothing has been done to it in the 20 years that I have been there. Like I say, there's derelict cars around the community. It's been contaminated with oil over the years. We had the smell of oil as recently as a couple of days ago. There was containers removed from the lot. And when it comes to opening up a mechanic shop, we just don't know what to expect. Like, what are the hours of business going to be? What type of work are they actually going to be doing in there? Because a mechanic shop can range anywhere from automotive to painting a car or whatever. We don't know what's really going to take place in there if it's been used the way it has been for the last 20 years that I've been there. So that's my concern. It's just basically an eyesore. So I'm not sure of what the rules and regulations are, what a mechanic shop has to follow as far as working hours, what their requirements are to run a shop like that. Noise in residential areas, I'm just not sure on what their rules they have to follow. So anyway, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Hurstall. Andrew, just give us your name, just for the public record.
Yeah, Andrea Battison, Charlottetown. My questions go particularly to non-conforming use. So I'm sorry I missed that during the presentation, but is the property business currently running? Or has it been not running for a particular time?
This one?
Yeah.
This one, I do believe is running. I don't know how much business that they're getting over there, but as far as I know, it's still in business, and I think
Still
that it's
operating.
up for sale.
Okay. Because,
Sorry, what, are you speaking about Bob Coughlin's? That's, again, you have to direct those questions.
I did.
Yeah, okay. So are we
The
talking about?
resident kindly provided the answer.
So are we talking about Bob Coughlin's or Creed's? Which one? Bob Coughlin is the one that's being rezoned.
Okay,
That's-
I'm looking at the
And
property.
the one across the street is Creed's Petroleum. So Bob, is Coughlin still operating there? He is. David, do we know that? Is he still operating?
Through the chair, to the best of our knowledge, it is an existing business in operation.
Okay.
And that's what the applicant indicated to us.
Thank you for the succinct answer. Sorry for the time there. I guess my question is what the city's current policy is towards returning non-conforming use properties to their original zoning. You know, I've had personal experience with a property that just keeps changing hands, and it keeps getting stretched, and it's very frustrating. And it looks to be something here that used to be, it was a 6-month policy. If it's not being used, then it automatically reverts. I'm aware of a situation where that was just passed over and it was allowed to continue even after 6 months. So does the city have a policy, especially during a housing crisis, as we keep hearing about, that when you're looking for a change of use in an area which is already non-conforming use and keeping it out of residential, is that a good idea? Or I guess the general question is, what is the city's policy on returning non-conforming use properties to their original zoning? Thank you.
Okay. So do we want to answer that, David?
Yeah, through the chair, we would revert to the regulations in the zoning and development bylaw that govern legal non-conforming uses. So if there is as Andrea noted, if there is a break, a demonstrable break in the legal non-conforming use that exceeds a particular period of time, and it basically the use is not continuous and it isn't restarted, therefore in that case, that status would be lost. The parent zoning still remains in place in either case, but there are restrictions around the continuance of a legal non-conforming use. So if it does cease operations beyond the period of time stipulated in the zoning development bylaw, that extra development right, if you could call it that, is lost. So.
Councillor Mattert.
Hand it over to the Councillor of the Ward. I think she was first.
Well, no, you're on. It just.
Sorry. Just for clarity, we kind of get into a little bit of a debate there, so I wasn't quite sure of the answer. Is the applicant of Coughlin Plumbing and Heating, is that who's looking for the exemption to construct a garage here now, or are they looking to sell the property and the potential buyer, or maybe it's already been bought, they are the ones who are looking for the site exemption? Is that what I heard?
David, can you answer that
David,
for the
please.
record?
Yeah, through the chair, to confirm, Councillor Mattart, that your last statement was correct. Coughlin is the owner, and there's an applicant that's provided this application on behalf of the owner, who is a potential purchaser, we understand, of the property, and they're looking to acquire the property to operate as an auto mechanic. So there would be a transaction in the background, as we understand, which has brought this forward for consideration.
Councillor McCabe?
Follow up with the manager, because I have questions on the Creed property, how it didn't return to an original use, because it was always a oil place and.
Oil service business.
Yeah, and now we're hearing that it's operating as a boat business, which would be a change of use from what its previous legal non-conforming use was. But that would be a separate question that I would like to follow up with, because if that's what's happening and boat business is happening, that's not the same use that they would have been granted. So I think we have some follow-up to do on what's happening there too.
So David, just in a clarification on that, the property that's in front of us, PID number 396937, that's R2, according to your report, correct?
Through the chair, Your Worship, that is correct.
Okay, so across the street, the old Creed Petroleum property, I believe that's R2 also.
Through the chair, Your Worship, that is also correct.
Okay.
Both are zoned the same.
Yes,
Yep.
so I think we have to do a follow-up on this, because that has been closed for some time, and I think there's some tankers still in back there that, I don't know what's in them, but anyways, we have to look into that.
Yep.
Questions? Any more from the audience or from the gallery? Well, it's been a good night, lots of information. I will ask that we motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Matard. Second by Councillor McCabe. All in favor? Thank you.
Favor.
Thank you, Councillor Duran. Thank you, councillors, and
Thank you.